It's Aleda with A Tale of Two Readers, and I'm back to give you a rundown of what I have finished in the past several weeks. I remember talking about Between the World and Me by Coates, and I don't think I ever reviewed it because I was still reading it while we were filming that particular video where I mentioned it. Now that I finished it, I wanted to give it a more thorough review, and I just want to say, especially during this time, today's date is May 8th, and it's the day 2 white men in Georgia were arrested for the shooting of a young black man who was jogging. I think Coates' book is really important right now. We have seen this violence. It's still happening, it's 2020, and I don't understand this entitlement to behave in a way that makes it okay to shoot someone solely for the color of their skin. The way that Coates talks about the body, the African American body, and how the body is so vulnerable in the hands of people who feel entitled to this. He describes it as this right that white people have passed down through generations, and still really hard to shake. That feeling that they have a right to do what they wish with a black body. I read Not That Bad by Roxane Gay. It's edited by Roxane Gay. It is a group of short stories about women who have been raped, sexually assaulted, different people. Every woman said to themselves, it wasn't that bad, or they were told by friends or family members, it wasn't that bad, or by the police, how lucky they were because they were not murdered. I listened to the audiobook, and each of those women, each of those authors read their own short story. I did not hear any anger at all in any of those stories. It wasn't about fury, it wasn't about rage. It was about telling a story and talking about how they coped with what happened with them at the time of their assault or rape or battery. I felt more resignation in some ways. I felt some numbness in others, some healing in others. Some of them really go through this cathartic feeling of having survived and not letting it ruin the rest of your life. It's not easy reading, but it's a good read, and I believe that these voices should be heard. These beautiful voices, strong voices should be heard. So, moving on. Okay, we're gonna jump into fiction and some things that kind of really fucking annoyed me in these next few books. So, Disappearing Acts. This is another one that I had started in one of our previous videos, and I said I would come back and talk to you about it when I finished. Okay, so this book really pissed me off. There was a lot of pitting women against each other and judging other mothers, set in this peninsula on the far eastern coast of Russia. And it's very remote, and there's this town there, and there's even a school there, like a small university there. And apparently this woman who wrote the book was there for about a year, decided she was going to write a book about it. It's a post-Soviet era. Each chapter is a voice of a different woman. There's so much foreboding in each of these chapters that you're sure somebody's gonna get raped or somebody's gonna get murdered or something. Every time I started a new chapter, and it could have been a completely different character that we haven't even gotten to. It was like that same feeling of foreboding in the first few paragraphs, and just creepy, like passive aggressive, super uncomfortable. So I personally would not recommend this book to anybody. I don't think it has anything. The writing is okay. If you like that kind of creepy sense of something horrible is going to happen, and you never know whether it does or not, go for it. It's, but it was just not for me. I just could not deal. I didn't know why this thing was published. I didn't know what the point of the book was for this girl. So, if I were you, write a book, because clearly anyone can get published. Let's move on. If you have Netflix, you may have seen a show called Virgin River. It's really sweet. It's a love story. This woman comes in, tries to start over in Virgin River, and it's a great show. It's a great little light show. It's fun. It's beautiful, the set and the scenery. I said, you know what? I liked that show. Let me just read the book, because maybe it'll be fun. Maybe, it'll tell me about other people in the town or whatever. I had no idea where this book was in the series, but I just figured if I liked the show, I might like the book. So, no, did not like the book. It's not bad, but I liked it less than the show on Netflix. I don't know if it was the characters that I didn't like as much. The woman, she's great. Great character. And then this really obnoxious guy comes around, and he's a former actor in Hollywood, and he is now a pilot. And he really just falls for her, but he has his own life in another state, and he doesn't act anymore, and he keeps telling her he doesn't want to get involved because he's not the type of man that she needs. He's not a family man, and he doesn't want her to get disappointed. But then, he just keeps banging her, and it's just like, dude, if you really want to be a man and not hurt this person, then just move the fuck on. Get out of the story. Go, get in the plane and fly the fuck off. Because what happens is they end up falling in love with each other, and then, suddenly he's like, no, I'm still not the man for you, but I just wanted to tell you that I really loved you. And, she was upset knowing, and I don't really buy the whole, because she had her head on so straight. I don't really buy the whole thing where she's going to be involved with a man for that long sexually, and then, just blow it off when he's telling her, I'm not that type of man. I think they built up this character to be a really smart, tough gal who's been through stuff, and she's just really got her shit together. And then she continues to see this guy who keeps telling her, no, I'm not good for you. I think it's bullshit. That would never happen. Anyway, they fall in love. She gets knocked up. He decides to, propose. So, whatever. It's not worth it. It's annoying. It starts out pretty fun and light, and then it gets annoying because of this back and forth with the yes, no, yeah, are they gonna, So, don't bother. I'm not even giving you the title, because it's bad. You don't want to waste your time. The Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I was super, super excited for this book. I had read Six of Crows, and although YA is not really my cup of tea, I liked it. And I didn't really like the ending of Six of Crows. There was that crescendo that kind of was supposed to be the exciting, conclusion, and was the worst part of the book for me. I just enjoyed getting to know the characters. I thought Inej was super cool. But, it was still YA. It's, it's cool. It's fun. It's all right. The end I thought sucked, but whatever. I liked it enough that when Leigh Bardugo came out with an adult book, I thought, perfect. You know, maybe all those things that I didn't like about Six of Crows and that whole feeling of like this boy band, that you always get from all these YA books. Even if they're not all boys, they're just these boy bands of literature that are, they're all the same. There's no substance to them, but I was really excited. Plus, the setting was really cool. It was about the Yale secret societies. I was super, super excited about that. I love like that northeast kind of, ivy covered, old buildings and schools and traditions and secret societies. I was super excited about it. It starts out really well, and it's about this girl who can see ghosts. Because she can see ghosts, she is sought out by someone in Yale that is the head of this group called Leafy House that polices all of the other secret societies. In this book, all of the secret societies have a different type of magic that they can control and that they can wield. Leafy House has to make sure there's no abuse of power, wants to make sure that they're behaving. She gets invited to become the next person trained in that position. So her name is Galaxy, but they call her Alex in the book, which just smacked of YA. I kind of respect Leigh Bardugo, but you gotta let that go. You gotta let that whole Galaxy. It was so cheesy, and just such a shitty name, and and then to shorten that to Alex, it was very 80s to me. It was just really lame. So in the beginning, I kind of thought that the character was boring, and I got why they chose her. She has this ability to see ghosts. Nobody has that ability except for one of the houses can create a potion that will make you see them if you can't. There, she meets Darlington. Now, he's a great character. Darlington is very cool. He grew up in New Haven. He goes to Yale. I think he's like second or third generation Yale. He has an estate where that he lives in, very close to campus. And he's also, he's the one who's actively policing all of these houses at this time. And he's training Galaxy. He's a very old-fashioned, very well-read young man. He speaks beautifully. He's just a joy to read. Of course, I think he's got kind of roguish good looks, but not rapey. When I read about college boys, I always think, ooh, like a group of college boys, particularly if they're in a fraternity, it's just too rapey for me. So he's not rapey. He's a good guy, and I liked his character a lot. And he disappears in the middle of the book, which really fucking pissed me off. And you can't pull him out. However, when she pulls Darlington out, Galaxy, or Alex, suddenly becomes this fucking badass. I don't know where this comes from. There was no build up. There were no questions. There was no mystery really to her background, but we don't know that there's this badass inside there, because she's just kind of she's kind of like a smart-mouthed, but relatively self-conscious and just like a mousy character, I guess. So suddenly she becomes this badass character. So while I'm reeling from the loss of Darlington, then I am gifted this wonderful Alex who is doing her thing. She's not following the rules. There's one scene where Galaxy goes into one of the houses and she needs something from this girl that is a member of one of these houses. And the girl is just not having it. She's just like, I don't care who you are, and you know, this is our house, and you know, who are you to tell me what to do? Is that kind of vibe. So Alex just like walks up to the girl and puts her hand like in her mouth, like pushes her tongue down with her nails and like pulls her jaw down and like pushes her backwards, and the girl's like freaking out, and I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome. She should have done this from the beginning. Like, I wish she was like this from the beginning. It was a really pleasant surprise. And there's another scene that was really great with this guy who's raping girls. Wait, she finds out about it and she gets severity herself and she gives it to this guy. And it's great because she, using it, she finds out all of the information that she was looking for in this, you know, in the mystery of the book, which I'll get into later. And she makes him end up going to the toilet and eating shit out of the toilet, which I thought was fucking awesome. It was a gift from Lee to me, so thank you. That was wonderful. So Alex becomes this total badass, and anyway, at the end of the day, the book is a mystery. It's unfortunate that Darlington disappears in the middle of the book. Some really cool things happen. Like, she dies. She goes to the other side and she talks to dead people, and so it does have a lot of cool things in it. There are really neat things that happen in the book, so I would recommend definitely reading it, but just go into it knowing that Darlington's a great character and you'll lose him. I'm not a fan of mystery. I don't enjoy being tantalized. I don't like, that sounded very Angela-like. I don't enjoy being tantalized. Anyway. You know, I don't like having clues parceled out to me every chapter, that kind of thing. I just fucking give it to me straight. Just tell me the fucking story. You know, I don't like that kind of shit. So so that was a little annoying because I didn't know that it was a mystery. I thought it was more of just like a fantasy kind of thriller. I did find out it is going to be a series. So chances are Darlington is coming back. So I may read the second one, the third, depending, I don't know. We'll see. So another book I read a while ago is called Evie Drake Starts Over. And I read it because it was a new release that one of my coworkers had read, and she thought it was really... It's basically a story about a woman who is widowed, and she's kind of strapped for cash. Her husband was a physician, and I can't remember if she worked or not. It's irrelevant because her best friend, who happens to be a guy, one of his closest friends happens to be a baseball player in the major leagues, the Yankees specifically, of course, and he's really hot, and he is going through a slump. Like, he can't throw a pitch. He was this fabulous, incredible, up-and-coming star pitcher, and then suddenly he just gets into a slump. He just can't pitch. So he goes to all these psychologists and all this crap, and his friend just says, you know what, why don't you just get out of New York and just come here for a little while and just get away from it all, where, you know, nobody knows you here. And I think they're in Maine. And so his friend is like, great. And it works out well because she needs some income, and so he's making a shit ton of cash, and he's got it. So he pays her rent, and then she rents out like this room for him. So, and he shares the house with her and stuff. Of course, you know, they fall in love and everything. But as I was reading the book, and I was getting into the book, it turns out that her husband was abusive to her, and it comes out in little memories that she has of things that he says to her in actions or behaviors. Look, it gets worse and worse, and then you realize that she was leaving him when she got the call that he was hit by a car and came back. So she comes back to the hospital, and then he dies. So at this point, the book kind of took a personal turn for me. I was widowed a little over a year ago, and he was also abusive. So I read the book thinking, this is an interesting story. I did not know it would hit home for me like this. And it wasn't that great a book, and it wasn't very realistic. At least in my situation, I was left with debt. And in her situation, he had left her a tidy sum with a life insurance policy that he had. And she didn't want to cash out the life insurance because she had felt guilty because she was going to leave him and then he died. That kind of rang false for me. She's struggling, she needs the money, he left it to her. He was an asshole. She deserves it for putting up with him alone. If through any part of her grieving, I think she would have come to the conclusion that, you know what, fuck him, he was an asshole. And, you know, I earned that shit. So, it took her too long. She does eventually cash out, but it just took her too long, and I thought it was so stupid. I thought it was stupid for her not to do that. I don't know why it didn't make her a more noble character. It didn't. I don't know why the author decided that she was going to make her character do that. It was unnecessary. It was stupid. It was an okay book. I mean, I don't know. It could have been a light love story for some of you, but you know, the fact that she was abused all these years before, and the fact that he dies, at least for me, because it was so personal, it just, I was just kind of, I just thought it was okay. I don't recommend it. Don't waste your time or money if you have something else that you prefer or that you like in your TBR pile. You don't need to put it on there, in my opinion. I don't recommend it, but if it's your cup of tea, if you like that kind of melodramatic romance, go for it. You might like it, like my coworker did. Scythe, and that is another book that I recently finished. That was an interesting book. It was a really cool, interesting story about the future, and we have now become so healthy, and we have cured all of the diseases, so nobody is dying. So what happens is there has to be a society to kind of cull the population, because if nobody dies, the earth just gets more and more populated. So they're called scythes. They reap human. These two kids kind of impress this very wise sage scythe, and so he decides to take them both on to become scythes together, and he trains them at the same time. And even though it's never been done before, it's not against the rules or the laws of the scythedoms. Every quarter, they have a symposium, and all the scythes meet in mid-America, and they talk about whatever has changed, whatever is new. They catch up, and then they introduce the trainees. Somebody contests the fact that he has two trainees. Really obnoxious character says that he's going to have two at once. They're going to have to fight at the end, and whoever survives gets to be the scythe. Their teacher, in his wisdom, decides that what he will do is kill himself, and then they will be released from the scythedom. There's this really nasty faction of the scythes, and it's kind of, your typical sociopathic character. They're way over the top. Like, I thought that they just kind of, the author kind of went overboard. Schusterman is the author. I felt like he kind of went overboard on the bad guys. Like they wear like different color capes, like blue with diamonds or green with emeralds on it. You know, like it was just kind of superhero-y to me. I didn't like that. I thought it was a little gross. And they were just like, the leader was so evil, and he was almost cartoonishly so, even for YA. So keep that in mind. It's really off-putting, not just because he's the bad guy, but because it's such a Liberace type bad guy. Anyway, so he decides he's gonna take the young man who is studying, and then the Grand Dame of Death, who is a very wise and old scythe herself, decides to take the girl on. And anyway, the whole point of being a scythe is to be merciful. If you want to be a scythe, then you probably shouldn't be a scythe. The bad guy, this faction feels like, fuck that, you know, if you want to kill, then you should be a scythe, because that's what we do, you know, which kind of makes sense. I mean, I get that. I understand where they're coming from, but it's just done so obnoxiously. Like, it really could have been a really interesting debate about whether someone who wants to kill should be a scythe or not. But they really just, like I said, this evil faction is very cartoonish, really over, like, kind of 80s character villain, you know, like, what about a body bag, you know. So, I don't know. It's just a little too much. I don't think I'll be reading the others in the series. Hopefully it'll be a show or a movie or something, and I'll enjoy it much more that way. Especially if they make the costumes, if they just tone the costumes down a little. That's it for me. Please subscribe if you want more whiny videos like this one. I hope to annoy you as much as possible. Be kind to one another. Don't kill your family. And hopefully we will talk soon. Hopefully I will see Gabby soon. Hopefully we will do something together soon, because I really miss her too. Thanks. Bye.